Hi, I'm Lisa Wallen with Directional Learning, and I welcome you teachers and parents to our Teacher Parent Edition. Today, we're going to be writing road letters. That's right, letters that point towards the right or towards the road. And a lot of our letters will have the red reptile tree in it. You'll see. So, all you need for this segment is you need a whiteboard, you'll need some markers, and maybe an eraser and some wooden letters, probably our reptile tree. So now what you should do before you start row letters is your student should have watched the LMR 123. We have a few videos on direction. And all you have to do is review sorting letters with them where you call the sounds and they use the wooden letters to put them in the directional column and link the sounds. And you want to review tongue letters with them in the same order they learn. You'll call the sound and they'll write the letter and link the letter to the sound. And you can use the characters and the stories. Then you're ready to start row letters with us. We want you to know that directional learning is free. We're always free because we believe every student can learn. And we know that every student should have a free, appropriate reading program. So that's why we're free. So make sure you pass the word. And if you teach it, we ask that you teach it freely to the student because we want everybody to learn. So now that you're ready, let's go write road letters. Make sure that you gather your wooden letters here because we'll need all of these letters to teach our lesson. So now we're ready to start writing our road letters. Remember, we call them road letters because they have a road. You can even stop for a second and tell the student, do you see this board or do you see this piece of paper? It has direction. This side is the left or the one direction, even down here. And this side is the right. Or where the red reptile tree lives, where the road lives, and this is the 3 direction. So then you want to tell them, remember, this was the beginning of the page. Well, this is the end of the page, and this is the end of the page, and this is where the bumps will be pointing towards the end of the page. So now we're ready to start teaching the student. So I tell them the first letter we're going to teach them is the red reptile tree. Now notice this is the red reptile tree. So I'm going to show you how to write it. So you want them to pick out their color pen. You pick out your color pen. So pick a different color from them so that they can see you write it on this line here. So I would go ahead and I would say, first thing I do, I'm making a tree. So remember, when you start off with the tree, you start off with a seed. So I start off with the seed at the top and I throw the seed down into the dirt. So see the seed, and then the seed starts to grow a little bit, and it starts to grow a branch. And that's how you make the red reptile tree. You take the seed and you throw it down into the ground. Then it begins to sprout up. See it sprouting up? And it doesn't go all the way to the top. It sprouts a branch about right here. And then it points towards the road. So this is our red reptile tree. Now our red reptile tree makes a different sound. It says ra, ra. It does say but it says when it's with other letters. But when it's all by itself, and usually it's the first letter in the word, it will say ra. So how I explain it to them is to remember the sound ra. Well, this is a tree. And remember, dogs love trees. Various reasons. Laugh out loud. But anyways, so that's how I explain it to them. Dogs like trees, so when they see this tree, they bark. And when they bark, they say ruff, ruff, ruff. But we listen to the first part of that sound, rah, rah. So that's how I remember that sound, rah. Just remember, dogs love trees, rah, rah. So that's the sound. So if they're younger, they can trace it and say the sound ra. If they're older, they can watch you make it and then just design it themselves. Remember, we're doing it in the same sequence they learn the tongue letters. You write it and say the sound, they watch, and then they can either trace or go right into writing it. So I'm going to write it now. I'm going to be green for the student today. So the student watched me, they heard me say the sound, and now maybe they traced it, or maybe now it's time for them to write it. So just remind them, you throw the seed down into the dirt, then it starts to sprout up, and give it a little branch, and the sound is rah, rah, rah. And they made the red reptile tree. Something else you could do if they're not relating the sound of the dog sound to this letter, ra. Something else you could do is you can tell them that this right here, this is the trunk of the tree. And of course, this is the branch. Now, a trunk of a tree, you can get a piece of bark because bark feels really rough. Have them touch it and say rough. Well, that's the sound that the tree makes. Rah, the first part of it. So that's another way to make it more multisensory. Get a piece of bark, have them touch it, and say it feels rough to the skin, right? So say the first part, rah, and that might remind them of the sound. Our next letter that we're going to teach them is our little mountain. And our little mountain you make just like the red reptile tree. Watch. I like to show them. I think showing is the best thing. So we're going to make our little mountain. And our little mountain, we start it like the red reptile tree. But then I just keep on going down and I match the legs. Do you see they're the same, the legs? So this is my little mountain. Now I make it just like the red reptile tree. So I threw the seed down and then the seed starts to sprout up. I give it a little branch, and then I just keep on going over the little mountain and I stop there. And now I made the little mountain. And the sound for this is mm-mm-mm. So they may trace it and say the sound mm. Then they'll get their pen out and they'll make it the same way. You can remind them. We make it like the red reptile tree and then we just go over that mountain. So you made the little mountain. Mm-mm-mm. Something else I wanted to show you is I would take out the wooden letters, bring out the red reptile tree and the little mountain, and I take the red reptile tree and I put it on top of the little mountain to show them that when we make the little mountain, it has the red reptile tree in it. Notice how the red reptile tree fits into the little mountain? Because remember, when we designed the letter, we said, we started at the top and we said we threw the seed down and then a seed grew back up and made a branch to make the red reptile tree. And then you keep on going over the little mountain. And that's how you make the little mountain. It has the red reptile tree in it. This is the most helpful thing because it shows them that when we make the little mountain, it has the red reptile tree in it and it points towards the red reptile tree. This is very helpful to show the student. Just make sure that they put the red reptile tree on top of the little mountain to prove it to them. This proves it to them, it provides logic for them, and it gives them a visual picture, and it makes it multisensory all at once. Something else I notice that when I'm teaching students the letter M and N, they get those sounds confused, or some of them think it's the same sound, because I think the reason is because when you sing the alphabet, they're right next to each other. So somehow those letters get missed, their sounds. So I just remind them when they make the sound, their tongue touches the roof of their mouth. It's just a great reminder for them. Also, I call it the little mountain because I want them to know that this is the little mountain. And then when they learn letter M, that's the big mountain. And guess what? These mountains are going to be very important when we learn phonics and some spelling rules too. The next letter we're going to teach them is our favorite candy cane. And remember, our favorite candy cane can hang from the red reptile tree. So that's what we're going to make. And our favorite candy cane has a hook. And it does kind of look like the red reptile tree, but we make it differently. So I make a hook first, so I'll show you. So I'll get my pen out and I start on the 3 side or the right side. So I first make my hook on the 3 side. So I make a hook, go down. Then I pick up my pen and from 1 to 3, I make a sleepy line. From 1 to 3. See, it's a sleepy line. Doesn't this look like a sleepy line? It looks like a bed you would sleep on. So I made my favorite candy cane and I went from 1 to 3. Notice this right here is a candy cane. This is the hook of the candy cane. See the candy cane? And this is the ribbon. You go from 1 to 3 to cross it. And candy canes can hang from the red reptile tree because it's a tree. Candy canes hang from trees. That famous time of year. So you made the favorite candy cane, and the sound for this is and I tell them, just imagine a favorite candy cane hanging from the tree, and then you hear it flapping in the wind because this is the ribbon. Favorite candy cane. Get it? Favorite candy cane. So they may trace it, make the hook first, then give it a ribbon from 1 to 3. So they'll get their pen out after they trace it, or if they trace it, and now it's time for them to make it. So they make the hook first, and then they cross it from 1 to 3, from 1 to 3, and they made a favorite candy cane. See the candy cane, and here's the ribbon. So I find that showing them and describing it and giving it sound really helps with them. Writing it and linking the sound to the letter. Make it even more multisensory. If it's that famous time of year, you can get a favorite candy cane and know that the hook with a real candy cane can go this way towards the left. But remember, our famous candy cane, or our favorite candy cane, it points towards the red reptile tree. So have them turn it around and point it towards the red reptile tree. And they can even pretend that they're hanging it from either tree. There you go. That makes it multisensory. And then they have a treat to eat. And I always tell them, when they eat the treat, start with the hook first. Because that's how we make our favorite candy cane. Have fun with that. So the next letter I'm going to show them is our palace, and our palace has a red reptile tree in it too, and it's going to point towards the road or towards the right or the 3 direction, and it has a road in it. Okay, notice how all my letters have roads in them? Well, you want to tell the student that because they've seen the letters with the road, and we know if it points towards the right, it has a road. So our palace is going to look like this. I'll just get my pen out and I'll say, the palace has the tall building in it, and the tall building, well, it's just a straight line, but we go down the building, then we come back up to the red reptile tree. See the red reptile tree? And then she turns the lights on with her pink, pink lips. Pa, pa, pa. And remember our lips up here. Do you see I put the lips up here? Because our palace, when you make that sound, pa, your lips come together. Notice it's pointing this way towards the red reptile tree or the right. So that's the palace. So here's a picture of the palace. And remember, it has a road, and the road makes its way towards the road. So there's our palace. Just wanted to show you that picture of that. So just remember the story. It has a tall building in it. So this is the tall building, and you go down the building of the palace, then you go back up the palace towards the red reptile tree. So see, you don't go to the very top, you start making the red reptile tree, and then she turns the lights on with her pink, pink lips. Pa, pa, pa. And this helps them to remember that letter. And you can even bring the red reptile tree out to show them that the red reptile tree is in this letter. There you go. So I would bring out the wooden letters for them to make it fit in that letter. So same thing, they're going to trace it, or they can just write it depending on what they need. So just remind them, she goes down the building, the tall, tall building, then she goes back up towards the red reptile tree, and then she turns the lights on with her pink, pink lips. Pa, pa, pa. And remember that sound, your lips are coming together, so you would make your lips come together for this sound. Pa, pa, pa. And the palace has a red reptile tree in it. So our next letter we're going to make is our king. And our king has this tall building in it. You see the tall building? So first, let me show you. We'll make the king. And the king, I make the tall building. Then I say, crown me king. And I say, crown me low. Now, for the king's crown, I'll put the crown a little lower than this line. Do you notice that I didn't put the crown up here? Because that would be capital. So I put the crown down here to show them. Then I say, the king says, crown me king, give me a leg, give me legs. So that's how you make the king. Now, once you show them with the dot, the crown, because you show them that this is the crown, I always find putting a dot lower and showing them that the dot is lower, then you say, crown me king, give me legs. Some of them will just automatically get it. Others won't. So say you crown him king, go towards the building, and then away from the building. towards the building, away from the building. Usually, away from the building, you don't need to usually say. All you need to say is you go towards the building. Okay, and then give them a leg. So next time I make the tall building, then I say crown me low. So I put my pen where I put the dot, and then I give them a crown and then a leg, and you made the king. This is one of the most difficult letters that I've seen students come in to make. There's always lots of confusion for this letter. So I make it simple. I say it's a tall building, so I make the building. Then the king says, crown me low, give me legs. So you give him a leg, and you made the king. So it's that easy. So that's how they would make it. So they could trace it, then it's their turn to make it. So they'd make the tall building, and then they say, crown me king, crown me low, give me legs. And then you keep on wanting to tell them, you notice that this is shorter. I don't start the crown way up here. I start it lower. Then they get it. So that's all you want to do. And you made the king. And the king has a road too. The letter we're going to make is our hill. And our hill has this tall building in it. So let's make it. So I like to show them. So first, to get to the hill, I have to run down the tall building. So I make a tall building. Then I go to the middle and make the red reptile tree there. And then I go over that hill. Then, after running that building and hill, I'm so tired. And you can show them that the red reptile trees in the hill, I would get both letters out and have them fitted in there as well. So, you can get the letter H out for your one letter and the red reptile and have it fit it right in there and show them. But it doesn't go, the red reptile is not at the top. It's at the middle. So, then you can show them that. You can show them again. You can say, see, ran down the tall building. Then to get to the hill, I have to go through the red reptile tree and then over that hill. I'm so tired after that run. So see, it explains why they would be out of breath too. Now, they may see that it looks very much like our little mountain. The only difference is the little mountain, you don't have to go down the tall building to make it. You just make the red reptile tree. Here, you have an extra step. You have to go down the tall building, then you go to the red reptile tree, to the middle, then you go over that hill. You're so tired. Then they're going to trace it, if they need to trace it, and then they'll write it. Same steps that we've been doing. So make the tall building, then halfway up towards the red reptile tree, or you could say the middle. Over that hill, you're so tired. So they made the hill. Last road letter we're going to make is our bouncy bed. And that is our tricky letter. But remember, it's a bouncy bed, so if you jumped on a bouncy bed, your lips would come together. Ba, ba, ba. And to get to the bouncy bed, you have to go down the tall building to the red reptile tree, then to the bouncy bed. You have to make it round to be bouncy. So that's kind of how I explain it. So I take my pen out and I say I have to run down the building to get to the bouncy bed. Then I have to go halfway up, kind of like the hill, kind of like I'm making the hill, but then I just go round to the bouncy bed, and now you made the bouncy bed. Now, I always feel like showing the bouncy bed after the hill is so much easier because it's basically the same steps. So remember, the bouncy bed, when you make that sound, would be ba, ba, ba. And just think, this is a bouncy bed. Remember we talked about paper and direction? This is the end of the page. So at the end of the day, I would bring the moon out because the moon lives at the end of the page, the end of the day. And at the end of the day, you would jump on your bouncy bed. That's the last thing you do at the end of the day. You get on your bouncy bed. So you have to look to see which way the bomb's pointing. It's pointing towards the end of the page, the end of the day. See the moon? So now you have a visual picture. So then they're going to trace it. So you go down the building, you go halfway up, make the red reptile tree over that hill to the bouncy bed. Ba, ba, ba. So here we go. They're going to go ahead and trace it or write it. So you'll just have them trace it and or write it. So go down the tall building, bounce back up, halfway up, go over that hill to the bouncy bed. ba, ba, ba. Just remember the bouncy bed. It's round, and if you jumped on a bouncy bed, your lips would go together. Ba, ba, ba. And you can even show them the red reptile tree is in it. So I would take out the two letters and have them fit, the two one letters, and have them, the bouncy bed and the red reptile, and have them fitted in there. And there you go. You have it. They can make it fit in there. Let's do that. So you can see I made the bouncy bed. Well, let me move it over here. And the red reptile tree fits right in there. So you can have them do that with the one letter so that they see that that has the red reptile tree in it. Same with our hill. Hill has a red reptile tree in it. So does our palace, right? And so does our little mountain. And of course, that's the red reptile tree. So you can show them that that's what these letters all have in common. They have the red reptile tree. Even this one kind of has it a little bit. We just make it differently. And of course, our king points towards the red reptile tree. So you just learned all our road letters. So remember, you teach it just like we taught tongue letters. You show them, they trace, and then they write it, depending on what they need. And make sure they link the sound each time, and you can tell the story just like I did. So we thank you for watching Directional Learning. You just learned our road letters. Now when you work with your student, before teaching them the middle letters, you want to review. You're going to review sorting letters with them. Then you're going to review the tongue letters and have them call the sound, and they'll write it and link the sound. Then you'll do road letters. Then you're ready to teach them the middle letters. So you want to do all of that in one lesson. It's really easy for the student because it's actually a review. Now remember, directional learning, that's how we teach. We teach in chunks so that they can master it and review and learn something new. So we can't wait to teach you middle letters. Thank you for watching Directional Learning. We can't wait to teach you more.